Hi, you. It's me, Nicole for NikStarr, and this is the NikStarr podcast. I am recording this a little bit earlier than I normally would, but today is 26 years exactly that I became Mrs Starr, NikStarr. Before that, my name was Nicole Evans. So yeah, 26 years ago today, I got married. And there's been times in my life people have said, NikStarr, that's a cool name. Is that your real name? I'm like, that's what it says on my passport. Well, it says Nicole Starr, not NikStarr. Semantics. Anyway, so yes, I have been NikStarr, Nicole Starr, for 26 years today. And I was Nicole Evans for 25 years and 3 months and 9 days. So, yeah, I've been a star for longer than I have not been. And an interesting thing happened this morning because I didn't realize today was the day. Leo was getting ready for school and we were talking about some things and he said to me, what's today's date? And I looked at my phone and I'm like, today's the 22nd of August. And I went, oh, I know that date. And I said, today I became a star 26 years ago. And he's like, what were you doing at this time 26 years ago? And I looked at the clock and I said, well, I was out going for a walk by myself thinking, should we be doing this? And he looked at me and I went, yeah. And he's like, wow, why did you think that? And I said, well, that's a really long conversation that I'd like to have with you at another time because it's a really good thing to talk about and for you to understand about the human psyche. And he's like, maybe we can go out for lunch on Saturday and talk about it. And I said, well, actually, I have plans for us to go out on Saturday for lunch already, so we can talk about it then. He goes, great, we have an agenda of conversation for our lunch. And I said, we do. And I just smiled so much about that because I thought that's what parenting's about, having these quality conversations of, lived experiences and the wisdom that's come from that, and to be able to share that with your children because, so many people have this great desire to give their children a better life than they had or to protect them from, the hard things in life. And I don't have that belief system. I think that it's important for children to be exposed to life lessons, and if they need to fall, to learn their own lessons or hear things that aren't, all good and versions of you that, may have been in suffering, but to actually hear the whole scope of the experience and the evolution from it. And then he said to me, yeah, but if you didn't marry him, then there would be no Ruby and Holly. And I said, yeah, to think like that is a little, unevolved, because when we're talking about souls, a soul will enter a body and have the human experience that it's aligned for, and it's never not going to happen, And he's like, oh, what do you mean by that? And I said, let's put that on the discussion agenda for Saturday as well. And he's like, okay, cool. All right, well, I'm going to go to school now. Okay, bye. And it's led me into this, really deep inquiry today around that version of me that was asking myself, should I really be doing this? And there are no regrets. I don't have any regrets. I have absolute compassion for the version of me in that moment. And I certainly have no regrets becoming Mrs. Starr or marrying Mr. Starr, and, the years we did spend together and the children we did have. I know that there were various moments from meeting him and for years that I experienced many levels of self-betrayal, which, in the past I would have think, oh, I wish I had have done this different. I wish I had have done that different. But now just have like compassion and appreciation for the me that was doing all she could in that moment, and being able to sit at the window of hindsight and see those, decisions I made and things I did. There was no other option at the time. Like, that's where I was in my evolution, and that's where I was as a person, and no amount of like wishing things to be different or having done something other than what I did is just, re-traumatizing or indulging in the loops of suffering. And rather than observing it and recognizing the wisdom that I have gained from those experiences, that's the worthy use of my time in each moment. And knowing that, there is such perfection in everything, always. And the only thing to do is to be able to, get to a point out of the loops of suffering, to be able to view it from the observer seat and pull the wisdom out of it, integrate that and embody it so that the evolution sticks. And then that your evolved self will unfold into the next moment where the experience will be quite different. People get very confused around the concept of acceptance. It's like when I tell someone to accept things how they are, they just think, oh, I have to remain in my suffering. I have to accept the suffering that is. And it's like, no, that's not what it means at all. It's like, if you can experience the full spectrum of the moment and feel everything completely and accept what is, there's this spaciousness that allows you to observe it out of suffering. And that is the place where wisdom lives. And that is the place where the wisdom can be integrated and ultimately embodied. And to always have compassion for the version of you that's doing or has done whatever it's done in that moment. And no amount of worrying is going to, pull an evolved version of you out of that moment in the future. It's just not, because worry is the fear of deeper, more suffering. And these patterns are just loop upon loop upon loop of sameness. And so I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with my 10.5-year-old so that he can be exposed to the awareness of living in each moment, and for having compassion and finding the wisdom in our past selves and our past lived experiences, and sharing with him how there's never a moment where a soul could have been something else, because that's just a pointless thought thread. And I can only imagine what it's like to be exposed to such a conversation and such content at that age. And I feel thrilled for him to be exposed to this content and these discussions. He's so active in them and so curious, and this for me is what parenting's all about. Not giving them things and not giving them, things that I didn't have, because that will make me feel better. But just following the energy of what arises and sharing my experience, and however that lands on him is his experience. And not protecting him from difficult experiences, or seeing me in a light that is not who I am today. It's bold. And it's perfect. So yeah, I'm sitting here today in this glorious energy of my appreciation of being NikStarr and everything that happened that led me to this day 26 years ago, and that version of me that was very unsure, and all the moments that I pushed aside what was really alive in me, that led to self-betrayal and just ignoring me, pushing it aside, pushing it deep down, and having true appreciation for all of it. And much appreciation for Mr Starr, for that matter, irrespective of our very clunky journey beyond our marriage and to the place of peace and equanimity that we experience now after lots of so many words. Lots of practice. Lots of practice of being in a peaceful relationship and co-parenting 2 adult children and being able to take a moment to view our soul contract and see all of it in its perfection, no matter how much suffering or how much joy was had, and observe it from that place of appreciation, hindsight, wisdom, embodied evolution. So yeah, 26 years a star. So funny. There's times where I think back to before I was a star and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot. Like there's times I remember once I'm like, I completely forgot about Nicole Evans. I go, wow. There was this definitive moment. Like I remember when I was getting married, I really wanted to be done with her. And I was so grateful to be able to change my name, and how much I discarded her suffering. And it was only in later years that I kind of went and picked her up and held her and embraced her and brought her into the whole, because the rejection was just because the suffering was too much to bear. And now she is a very welcomed part of me. Hey, it's funny how these markers in time take us down these journeys of reflection. And I've been very grateful to be doing that today, and for that leading into a lunch date for a deeper conversation with Mr. Starr, who has nothing to do with the original Mr. Starr. He just has, by default, gained the name that was given to me 26 years ago. And I remember when I did get divorced, people would ask me, are you going to go back to your maiden name? And I said, no, my children are stars and I feel very much a star, and I actually don't feel defined by its origin, and I didn't, and I never have. And I kind of forget that, it came from a marriage. It just feels so who I am and not defined by its inception. A great respect and reverence for all of it. So I think that is all I have to share with you today. I appreciate you listening, and if you wanted to find out a little bit more about me, my website is www.NikStarr.com. Thank you. Much love. Bye.